History is absolutely packed with these epic stories of how nations get built. But so often, some of the most powerful ones, the stories of the real trailblazers, they just get lost to time. Well, today, we're digging one of those stories up. It's a tale of unbelievable courage, a fight for freedom, and the struggle to build a brand new country.
So let's just jump right in with the big question that frames this whole thing. How do you actually build a nation from absolutely nothing? What does that really take? And who are the kinds of people who step up to do it?
Well, for two brothers, Zion and Owen Harris, the answer involved a journey that took them from being enslaved in America to becoming leaders in Africa. And their story really shows you that building a nation isn't just about drawing maps and writing laws, it's about pure grit, conviction, and, a willingness to fight for your dream.
All right, so let's start where it all began. This first part of their story is just this monumental journey, a trip clear across the Atlantic to leave one life completely behind and try to create something entirely new.
Okay, so before we go any further, there's a key term we've got to wrap our heads around: repatriate. In this context, it was all about a movement of formerly enslaved or freeborn Black Americans who chose to go back to Africa to found what would become the new nation of Liberia. And Zion Harris, he was one of these pioneers.
Now this timeline, just look at the incredible transformation here. In less than 20 years, Zion Harris goes from being born into slavery in Tennessee to stepping onto the shores of Liberia as a completely free man. Can you even imagine that kind of shift in your own life? It's extraordinary. And he didn't just show up and exist. He immediately started to build a real life, a real community. He became part of the family of a Presbyterian missionary and would go on to marry his daughter, Martha. He was laying down roots for a future that he was finally free to choose for himself.
Okay, so building a life is one thing, but defending it? That's a whole other ballgame. And this next chapter is where the Harris brothers truly start to become legends.
So the brothers, they set up a farm a little ways upriver from the capital, Monrovia. And right away you see what kind of men they were. They weren't just thinking about themselves, they started giving shelter to local DK people who were on the run from this violent warlord named Gatumba.
But of course, that act of compassion put a giant target on their backs. Gatumba's forces tracked those refugees right to the Harris farm, and they attacked. Their brand new life was suddenly facing its very first real test.
So you've got this war party coming for them. And how many defenders are there to protect the farm? You're looking at the number. 5. That's it. Just Zion, his brother Owen, and the 3 day workers they were protecting. 5 people against an entire force.
It begs the immediate question, right? Could 5 men, just 5, really stand against an army? This was the moment that was going to define them for years to come. And unbelievably, the answer was yes. They held their ground. They fought off the attackers in what must have been this desperate, harrowing defense, until a militia could finally get there from Monrovia. This single act of unbelievable bravery made them heroes in their new home.
So that defense, that was the spark. The story of their courage spread like wildfire, and it transformed them from just local heroes into figures who were known all across the new nation. And here's the proof. In 1840, Zion Harris did it again. He was instrumental in defending a mission at a place called Headington from another large army. After this, he wasn't just known, he was famous.
So what do you do with that kind of fame? Well, Zion Harris did something truly extraordinary. He decided to sail back to the United States, the very same country that had once enslaved him.
His mission was just audacious. Think about it. He sails all the way back to America, makes the long journey to his home state of Tennessee, and starts speaking to free Black communities, telling them about the promise of Liberia. And the most incredible part? He comes back with more than a dozen of his own relatives.
And you might wonder if people listened. Oh yeah, they listened. During just one speech he gave in Maryville, Tennessee, he drew a crowd of over 1,000 people. This man, once considered someone else's property, was now a powerful leader, inspiring people on 2 different continents.
But their story doesn't stop there. In fact, you could argue that the most significant part of their legacy was still to come. The Harris brothers then turned their fight toward the very institution that had once held them captive.
Just stop for a second and think about the profound irony here. These 2 men, who knew firsthand the absolute horrors of slavery, were now in a position to fight back against the slave trade itself. Their own personal history had become their public mission.
And this wasn't just talk. They took direct, dangerous action. They volunteered for government campaigns to go in and shut down these notorious slave trading posts all along the coast, at places like Traytown, Nueces, and Cape Mount.
And all that fighting, it actually worked. Their campaigns were a huge reason why the new Liberian government was finally able to shut down the slave trade across a massive stretch of the West African coast. They were literally dismantling the system that had oppressed them.
And that brings us to the final and, well, the tragic final chapter of Zion Harris's life. After everything, pioneer, warrior, liberator, he became a statesman. But his story ends with a twist that is just so shocking and sudden.
Just look at this timeline. In August 1853, he's at the absolute peak. He's elected to Liberia's House of Representatives. He is, for all intents and purposes, a founding father. Then, less than a year later, during a storm, he's struck and killed by lightning. His life of impossible odds and incredible victories was over, just like that, ended by a random act of nature.
The story of the Harris brothers is such a powerful reminder that history is just brimming with these forgotten founders and untold epics. And it really leaves you with one final big question, doesn't it? What other crucial histories, what other stories of incredible courage are still out there, just waiting to be told?